Over the past few weeks, I was on the hunt at estate sales, thrift stores, and antique shops, all for the search to find cool vintage stuff, and I couldn't believe what I found. So come along with me to see what I picked up. If you're new here, my name is Zach and I love vintage stuff, and in today's video, I'm going over some of my best vintage finds from over the past 2 or 3 weeks. If you've seen some of my other videos, I go thrifting like every single day, and I usually make videos about me going into a thrift store, flea market, estate sale. I film what I find on the inside, and then at the end of the video, I do an entire haul. This video is going to be a little bit different. I always film whenever I'm in these places, but a lot of the time I end up with footage that's not long enough to make an entire YouTube video out of. So in this video, I'm going to be compiling some of my best finds, like with little clips, and be overlaying them on the screen so you guys can see where I actually found them. I can talk about them a little bit and definitely make a long enough video so you guys can actually enjoy watching it, so it's not like a 2-minute video or something like that. I found a lot of great stuff over the past couple weeks, so it's going to be a lot of fun. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe and let's get into it. So a couple weeks ago, me and Allie went to a garage sale. We walked up and there was just stuff all through the driveway, but as we were looking through, the seller said, "Hey, we actually have all the stuff in the house for sale too." And me and Allie looked at each other and were like, hell yes. So we immediately went inside, and in the first bedroom I went to, I saw this hanging up on one of the walls. This is a vintage Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders mirror. It is so big, and I got these lights up right now, so I don't want it to reflect too much, but features the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders. This thing's from the 70s and is really huge and extremely heavy. The one that I found doesn't have a date on it, but I was able to find some posters online with this exact same graphic, and it's dated like 1977 or 1978. So really cool, and I guess this was just something that they might have had at like a bar, or I'm not sure where exactly it was originally sold, but I had to buy it whenever I saw it. I got a little bit nervous because the whole bedroom, they had these pennants sort of like pinned to the wall. They were like all over the wall. And when I was in there, there were a few other vintage sellers in there, and one of the guys was like, "How much for all these pennants?" And the woman said $25 a piece. So I got stressed out, I was thinking, I don't know what they're going to charge me for this Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders mirror. I got really nervous, but I took it off the wall and held on to it while I looked through this closet that was like right next to it. On the screen now is what I saw in the closet. A lot of old jackets. I probably should have grabbed more of these when I was there, but honestly, I just grabbed the ones that I thought were the coolest, and because I didn't really know what they were going to actually charge me for these whenever I took them out there, so I just grabbed the best ones. One of the jackets was this blue one right here. This is probably the coolest one, but whenever I took them out into the hallway where the seller was, they said that this held like sentimental value to them and they didn't want to sell it, which is unfortunate, but obviously you can't blame them. One thing I found about estate sales is you can find the best deals at ones that are held by their own family, or you can also find like the worst deals because people have such sentimental value to certain things and you never really know what they could be. It could be the most valuable thing in the house. It could also be like something that's not worth anything. They just have some sort of a memory attached to it. I never pressure anybody to sell anything, so I obviously was like, that's totally fine, hold on to this jacket, but I'm definitely bummed out I couldn't have bought that one because it is really cool. But I ended up being able to buy 2 other jackets, a Philadelphia Flyers jacket and then another blue similar chain stitch jacket that was similar to the one that I wasn't able to buy, but definitely wasn't as cool. This is the Flyers jacket. This thing is super old. Check out that tag right there. This has got to be from the 70s. It says official Philadelphia Flyers Flyer Jack. Made exclusively for JCPenney Co., made in USA, and it's a size large. It's got this furry interior on it and nothing on the back, but this is a really nice jacket. It has to be from sometime in the 70s, and it's definitely the oldest Flyers jacket I've ever found. It's got this nice patch on the front too. And here's the blue jacket. This one's pretty sick. It's got this chain stitching on the back. It's got patches all over it. He must have been some sort of a EMT or worked for the fire department or something like that. Patches all over it. On the inside here, it does have its original tag. Dawn Allison Athletic, Rochester, New York, size large. Nylon shell, cotton lining. This thing, definitely really old, and it smells like an attic. Whenever I took these out in the hall and asked the seller what she wanted for them, she took that one blue jacket away and then said, "How about $30 for everything?" And I was like, deal because I thought maybe she might price the mirror at like 100 or something, which would have been way too high for me to buy. But 30 bucks for everything is definitely a really good deal, and these jackets are really cool. After leaving that sale, we went over to another sale that was labeled as a small estate sale. At this point in the season, there isn't much going on, so I figured I would give this one a shot, even though it was listed as a small estate sale. Typically, when something's listed like that, they might not have that much stuff. It literally might be only furniture or only like a couple TVs or something random like that. But I figured I would take the risk, and this house was definitely strange. I don't know what the whole story behind it was, but it was a big house. But when you went into the estate sale, the entire garage was filled. The upstairs and main floor of the house were completely empty, and there was some stuff in the basement. Really was not expecting to find much, but when I went into the garage, I was able to find a couple things right off the bat that made me think maybe there is some stuff in this house. Like I found this leprechaun sweatshirt in the garage. This thing's pretty beat up. It has some staining, but it is a vintage Signal sweatshirt, and yeah, I feel lucky. Pretty random. But yeah, since I saw that, I was thinking maybe there is some more stuff. So I started to dig some more. And in that same bin, I found all of these vintage placemats that have this like Native American tribal pattern on them. Have no idea what I'm going to do with these. When I found those, I went to go upstairs, and literally, like I said, there was nothing in the house. It was so weird. So I went up and looked in all the bedrooms, and there was nothing in there. It was just like empty rooms. It was pretty creepy. But then we went down to the basement, and I was shocked. Down there was a whole, for the length of the entire basement, there was a whole rack of clothes hanging there. I was like, how is it this perfect? I mean, it seriously seemed like a trap, because like what I'm looking for is clothes. And when you walk down there, it's seriously a whole rack of clothes. So I immediately start looking. One of the first cool things I found was this vintage hockey sweater. This thing is old as dirt. Check this out. It's on a Courage tag, and the embroidery on it is really sick. I don't know how old this thing is, but I'm guessing it's from the 70s. It's made in Taiwan, Republic of China. So maybe that's a hint to tell how old it is. I've never seen something called Republic of China before. There's nothing on the back, but this is definitely a really cool sweater. I also found this jacket. I'm not sure what to exactly call it, but it's sort of like cut and sew, and it's got these cool little leather accents on it. There's the back. This is a really nice jacket, and it's from the brand New York Classic. Never found that brand before, but this is a nice one. In this typical scenario, I usually just grab anything that I like, and I bring it outside to the seller and see what they're pricing everything at, because they didn't have any price tags anywhere, and I knew if I left something, there's a good chance it wouldn't be there when I got back. So I grabbed this. Honestly, I had no freaking clue what this was. I'll lay it down and show you guys like a better video of it, but it's basically like a Native American print blazer, women's blazer, and it also has a skirt with it too. Never found something like this before, but I thought that was pretty interesting. Allie found these vintage Guess cheetah print jeans. Those are freaking sweet. These are probably the coolest things that we found at this sale. There's the inside tag. Yeah, these are from the 80s or 90s for sure. Here's a woman's textured sweater thing. Pretty nice. The brand on this one's Reversal USA. On the floor in that room, I also found this vintage camel fanny pack. It's got like the pool balls on there. I've never found this before. I found so much Camel Sig stuff, and I've never found a Camel Pool Lounge fanny pack before. This thing's really nice, and it's definitely never been used. Just goes to show somebody like me who finds camel stuff all the time, there's still stuff for me to find out there, which just blows my mind. This one needs a wash, but it's Grand Canyon, kind of like a pullover windbreaker type thing. Not quite a sweatshirt, it's like more lightweight than that. And while I was leaving, I found a couple other t-shirts that were just in a pile sort of near the entrance to the garage. I'm curious if there were any other good shirts in here that somebody got to before me, but one of the shirts I found was, "Lord, keep your arm around my shoulder and your hand over my mouth." And then I had no idea what this was. I think this could potentially be some sort of like a political person. Maybe it was like they were running and they didn't want them to win. something like that, but I have no idea. You guys will have to let me know if you've ever seen anything like this. A couple days later, I went to a few antique stores. I was going to make a whole video about the different antique stores that I went to on this day, but I only ended up finding one thing, so I didn't end up making the video. I have all this random footage of things that I saw in there, but in general, I only ended up buying one thing, so I figured that wasn't worth it to make the video. But what I found was at a place called Bristol Antique Market. This place is pretty decent. I've only ever found a few things here, but definitely fun to go look through. Anyways, the shirt I found was this alien holding a plug. Not sure what this is actually from, but vintage right there. I can't remember what I actually paid for this, but I know it's in the video that I took, so here's the price right here. The brand on this one is Humanities. I don't know what this is actually referencing. Not sure if this is just like a late 90s graphic. Seems like something like that. I wasn't sure if it was like a skateboard brand or something like that. But yeah, it's double stitched, but definitely from like the late 90s, early 2000s. I also went to a Second Ave thrift store. I know in my previous video, I went to a Second Street. This is different. There's these thrift stores around me called Second Ave. These are just like, they're like big Goodwills basically. They're sort of like Savers if you have any of those stores around you. They bring out stuff all the time. You never really know what you're going to find in them, so I always go in and check. Found a few random things. I found this vintage Champion heavyweight sweatshirt. This one was $8 and it's on this 90s Champion tag, fully embroidered. It's a nice sweatshirt. I also found this sweatshirt from Northern Reflections. This is like a nature brand. They always have different nature prints on them. This one's got a wolf in the snow. Kind of perfect timing to find this sweatshirt, and this was also $8. I feel like these stores, their prices are usually on the higher side. I would say for a sweatshirt, it's usually between like $7 and $15, so it can get pretty high, but a lot of times they price it at like $7 or $8. T-shirts are usually like $3 to $8, and then jackets are just completely random. You never know what they're going to price something at there, but you can still find good stuff, and they just put so much inventory out. You know, there's a good chance they'll bring something out while you're there, and you could get lucky. I also found this vintage fleece. This thing is really cool. It's got that like 80s, 90s vibe to it. It's from the brand Starting Point, and it's a size medium. And like I said, this one's $13. It's kind of like a mix between a sweatshirt and jacket, so I guess I could see why they priced it a little bit high, but this is definitely on the border of like, should I buy this or should I leave it? But I thought it was just cool enough to buy it. I mean, I might wear it myself. It's that cool. And the last thing I found there, this was totally just based on vibes. Never found this brand before. I didn't really know what it was, but it's like this early 2000s sweater. It's from a brand called 212 NYC. There's a tag right there. I genuinely just bought it because I thought it looked really cool. It's sort of like, it looks velour a little bit, but it's basically just like a knit sweater. It's tagged a size large and it was $9.49. It's almost $10, but yeah, I thought it was really cool. This could definitely be something I could wear. It would fit me. A lot of times with this early 2000s stuff, they fit really oversized. So if you find something that's a size large, it's going to fit like an XL or a 2XL. So if I found any other size bigger than this, I knew it would be like huge on me. This last bag is full of a bunch of vintage clothes that I found about a week and a half ago at 2 different estate sales. I got to this first sale about 2 hours before it started, and I was pretty surprised because I was the only one there until about 45 minutes before the sale, which isn't that common nowadays. I feel like people get to sales really early and it's usually a bunch of people, but I wasn't really complaining. This sale seemed like it had a lot of women's clothes, so maybe that's why there wasn't a massive turnout for this place, but it was a packed house with so much clothes. I knew it was worth just to take the risk, even though I really don't look for women's clothes. When I got inside, I took some videos in there. This place was just completely full. I was talking to one of the neighbors who was just around the sale before it started, and he said the house has been vacant, like nobody's been living in it for like 9 years now, which is pretty nuts. One of the photos for this sale that really intrigued me was this one. You can notice down at the bottom corner, you can kind of see some t-shirts. So right when the sale opened, I went inside and went upstairs to this room, and I was able to grab these t-shirts. I grabbed those and I kept walking around, and in another room, there was like a whole chair that had a bunch more t-shirts, and I was like, hell yes. So I just grabbed them, put them into my IKEA bag, and kept looking around. There was just so much stuff in this house. Genuinely, I had no idea where to look. Every room had clothes, and I wasn't really sure where the men's clothes was. I wasn't sure where the women's clothes were. I had no idea if there were even any men's clothes at all. Here's some of the t-shirts I found. Vintage hospital t-shirt from the early 80s. It's on this Hanes tag. I actually found 2 of these ones. Here's a Disney store t-shirt that has Walt Disney Studios on the bottom of the front. You can see it right here. I'm not really sure what this was referencing. I don't know if this is just something they sold at the store, but it has its original tag on it too. Here's another one, Disney Online. Never seen this tag before, Disney Promotional Products. And underneath it, it has a Hanes Beefy Tee tag. This thing's from like the mid 90s usually, so it's probably like late 90s considering it's Disney Online. I found a few of these old tank tops. Not sure how old these are, but they've got what seems to be a super old tag. Greco quality. No idea. You guys will have to let me know about these shirts, but really thin and old. I found 4 of these, so I thought I would grab them. Bring a little joy to life. Really nothing crazy in terms of t-shirts, but thought I would grab them. Here's a vintage casino t-shirt. So this family was originally from the Philippines. Now, in terms of vintage international clothing, I don't really know what sells and what doesn't, or what people are actually interested in. So I wasn't really sure. A lot of the stuff that I did end up picking up was just like random American vintage stuff, but I did grab a couple things that I thought were intriguing enough. I didn't know if anybody would actually be into them, but I thought it was worth taking the gamble because it was something that I never really saw before. One of the older t-shirts I found was this Philippines shirt. It's got this love bus on the front, single stitch, so definitely a vintage one, but yeah, I'm not really sure about it. It's got this old tag on the inside. I'm just gonna hold up a couple of the other random t-shirts that were in there. This is the oldest t-shirt I found, or at least the oldest one that actually has a date on it. I've been bypassed. 1979 heart t-shirt. This one's really cool. It's a ringer, and here's the tag right there. Just check out how full the master bedroom was. There was clothes literally everywhere in here. There's a whole closet. There were shoes and bags. There was just so much to look at. And one of the closets, it was completely full of sweatshirts. I dug through and pulled out a couple of them. Here's a vintage Beverly Hills Polo Club sweatshirt. It's got shoulder pads though, so I'm not really sure what to do about that. There's the tag right there. There's also this vintage Guess jeans sweatshirt. Kind of funny, I never really find any vintage Guess jeans, but over the past 2 weeks I found it twice, which is pretty interesting. There's the tag there. There's also this LaSalle University. I'm not sure exactly where this is, but this is a vintage Russell Athletic made in USA. Pretty heavyweight, and I don't think it's ever been worn. In one of the side bedrooms, there were a couple chests that were full of vintage kids' clothes. I don't pick up kids' stuff that often, but whenever I find something that looks really sick, I have to buy them. Like, check out this, that vintage J.C. Penney's, like, tiny kids' jean jacket. So cool. There's the tag there. That thing is awesome. Nothing on the back. And kind of a side note, you can kind of tell when these jean jackets are old just by the little buttons they have on each of them. Here's a cool pair of vintage pants. Look at those pockets on there. These are from the brand Billy the Kid. Here's another pair. These are sort of flare. Saddlehorn is the brand. And yeah, it's just sort of cool how the stitching looks with the white versus brown. It's got a Talon zipper. I didn't even realize these were Levi's when I originally grabbed them. Check out that patch on the back, and it's got a blue tab. Never found Levi's with blue tabs before. If I had to take a guess, I would say these are probably from like the early 80s, but I'm not exactly sure. It's got a Talon zipper, and you can just tell the pants are old too by the different pockets they have. These ones, look, it's barely even like a normal pocket. These are almost just like change pockets. Here's another Billy the Kid pants. These are flares too, but yeah, these might be the coolest ones. Vintage plaid Billy the Kid pants. There's the tag. I love vintage flare pants like this. Here's another little kid jacket. Nothing on the back of this one. It's got a Sears tag on the inside. I'm not sure if this is a kid's or a woman's top, but it's a vintage Hang 10 shirt. Big buttons on it. and like a cropped shirt. Whenever I found that shirt with its like Hang 10 graphic, I saw this. I thought this was another Hang 10 thing, but it's from a different brand, Tom and Jerry. But it's got the Hang 10 logo all over. It's like a kid's robe. Pretty cool. When I originally grabbed this one, I thought it was Japanese writing on it, but now I'm pretty sure it's not. Just got this cool pattern all the way around. It's from the brand Erica. Never heard of this one, but I'm pretty sure it's a woman's brand. In one of the bedrooms, I found this vintage West Point flag banner thing. It's like made from pennant material. This thing's definitely really old. It's got to be from at least the 60s. I also found this little bag, and I didn't really know what it was at first until I opened it up. It's a vintage little radio that's still in its original packaging with its headphones. This is quite cool. It's a AM FM stereo receiver, and you would just turn the little knob and it has a little clip so you could wear it on the side. This is such a funny little thing. It's awesome that it was never used because it's like really clean still. And then the little logo on the bag says BAS Chrome Audio and Videotapes. So it was pretty nice they had it in this bag still, because even though the bag's beat up, the actual equipment is still in really good condition. As far as men's clothes, I found some random stuff. I found this vintage thermal shirt. This is from the brand Jockey. Definitely never worn before. And these things always just have like the weirdest fit. They're always really long. I guess they're meant to be tucked in, but yeah, I don't know what this actually fits like nowadays, but it's pretty cool that it's never been worn. I'm pretty sure the original owner worked at a hospital because they had a bunch of vintage hospital stuff, but I picked this one up because it's never been worn and it's a good size extra large, early 90s, St. Mary's Hospital. So I mentioned earlier that this family was originally from the Philippines, and this is sort of the area that I wasn't really sure if I should buy these or not, but you guys will have to let me know if I should have picked these up or if this was a mistake. Everything I got, all the shirts were $3 a piece, and like the dress shirts were $3, and I think a couple of the other things were randomly $5, but in general, everything was like between $3 and $5. So I wasn't sure if I should actually buy these or not, but I picked up a bunch of these vintage embroidered shirts. I know these are definitely not from America, but I'm not sure if people look for these nowadays. They're definitely extremely old. They have big collars on them. They're all different brands. Check this one out. It's got embroidery all over it. It's from the brand Ramey. Yeah, so I'm not sure if these were worth picking up, but they're definitely like cool shirts regardless. They've got big pockets down on the front. And yeah, this is just something that wasn't really anything that I found in the past, so I thought it was worth taking the risk for $3 a piece. This shirt is definitely something that I could see people wearing nowadays. And then this one, just check out the different patterns on it. Even has embroidery on the back of the collar there. This one's pretty cool. It's got like a hat and a machete on it. Vancouver brand, embroidered. There's the tag there. It's another one. Yeah, so I don't know if those were worth picking up or not, but I figured for $3 a piece, maybe somebody out there wants them, especially because they're definitely old. They're not like something from the early 2000s. They're from the 70s at least. There were a couple other vintage button-down shirts that were American vintage, but yeah, just in scenarios like this, I usually just grab anything that I like. Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, I just grab what I like and then I go down to the seller and I say, hey, how much for everything? And usually they price everything out individually, but if you buy a lot of stuff, a lot of times they give you better deals. Vintage Arrow button-down shirt with a big collar on it. There's a tag there. So here's something that I've been looking for a while, but I hardly ever see them at estate sales. Usually at estate sales where I think they might have something like this, they don't. And then at this estate sale, was not expecting to see it at all, and bam, there it was. This is a vintage rubber-faced stuffed animal made by the brand Gund. You could tell it's Gund by this tag that it has on it. It says a Gunderful Creation, and then on the back of it, obviously, it says Gund Manufacturing Company. These things are highly collectible, these rubber-faced stuffed animals. This one in particular isn't too sought after. It's not like a rare design by any means, but There's some of these that can go for hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. I try to pick them up every time I see them, and this one was only $4, so I was like, no brainer. I found a couple other random things too here, like this vintage Mickey Mouse patch. Here's a little vintage Mickey Mouse coin purse. You open up the bottom, and that's where you put the coins in, and it has a little squeaker on the inside. This reminds me of a shoe that Jeremy Scott made in like the early 2010s. He had pretty much this exact Mickey on the tongue of shoes, and I always wanted them, but I never ended up finding those. I feel like nowadays I could probably thrift Jeremy Scott stuff, which is just nuts, so hopefully someday I can find those. Then I also found this little container that says Sesame Place. This is like a Sesame Street theme park that's around Philly, and this one's dated 1983. And the last thing I found at that sale was something else that was pretty random, another vintage mirror. This one says, "Damn, I'm good." I'm not sure why this was in this house. It is genuinely so random, but I'm not complaining. It's really cool. I don't know if this is something that would have been at like some sort of a carnival. I know a lot of these mirrors you could win at carnivals, or if this is something somebody just bought somewhere, but pretty cool. Damn, I'm good. It's just like a random phrase. I love stuff like this, so this is an awesome pickup. The other estate sale that I went to after that sale, I could tell had so much potential. I'm actually kind of kicking myself that I didn't go to this one first, because it did have some vintage clothing in the pictures, but it didn't seem like they had that much. But whenever I got there, it seemed like they definitely could have had some cool stuff. Unlike the last one, it seemed like mostly men's stuff in the house. So like there was like a bunch of hunting and outdoor wear, and it just seemed like all the clothing seemed like it had the right vibe to have some really cool stuff. And whenever I got there, it seemed like people were leaving with clothes. So I was kind of like, dang, I missed some great stuff. But I was able to find a couple cool things. Like I found this vintage jersey. This thing is really, really old. I know these are kind of popular nowadays, these types of jerseys. This is like a vintage, I don't know if this is actually what they're called, but sort of like the sand knit material. I used to find those types of jerseys all the time. It's from this brand called Mason. Here's the tag right here, Mason. And yeah, it's definitely really distressed. You can tell on the shoulders. I also found this vintage Happy Camper t-shirt. This is from like the early 2000s on this Gildan Ultra Cotton tag. Nothing on the back of this one. In the house, I wasn't able to find too much clothing, but I went out into the garage, and up in the attic, there was just so much stuff up there. Here's a little video to show you what it actually looked like up there. One of the things up there that I wasn't really expecting to see was this vintage Woolrich shirt. This thing's really heavyweight. It's got like fishing depictions on it. It's kind of like faded out, but I think this is how it's supposed to actually look. And yeah, I'll try to bring it up close so you can actually see what the design is, but it's sort of like hunting and fishing related. Here's a tag. This is like a late 90s, early 2000s Woolrich tag. And the last thing I found up there was this true vintage duo fold 2-layer fabric shirt. Not sure how old this thing is, but it's definitely on its last leg. It's pretty beat up, but I know some people look for old shirts like this, so I thought I would pick it up and give it a shot. You just look at this thing. This is very old. I have no idea when Duofold was making shirts like this, but yeah, it's definitely an older one. Needs some love, but I thought it was worth picking up. So that's some of my favorite stuff I picked up over the past couple weeks. If you guys enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like and subscribe to my channel. I make videos like this all the time, so if you enjoyed this one, you'll probably enjoy one of my other ones. Thanks for watching.